Jefferson County Court at Law is back in session. Court is in session in cause number 23CCCR 0694. Case of style of state is Texas versus Rafael Orozco Ceja. Mr. Ceja, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ceja, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Ceja, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ceja, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Ceja? I'm doing fine, thanks for asking. Mr. Ceja, you're represented in your case by your attorney, Attorney James Padgett. Attorney Padgett, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
And Mr. Padgett, do you waive a record in Mr. Ceja's case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Ceja, I have before me a document that is titled Information Sheet. This information sheet was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. In this information sheet, Mr. Ceja, it alleges that you, Rafael Orozco Ceja, on or about April 9th of 2023, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, operating a motor vehicle in a public place, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated. Mr. Ceja, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Ceja, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No problem, sir.
Mr. Ceja, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily? And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Don't look at me. I mean,
That's what no contest means.
He knows, he just misunderstood me. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Ceja, I also have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. It is also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. Mr. Ceja, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Ceja, there are a set of initials on a line next to a box that's checked, no contingent, which means no contest. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 3 of this same document, there is a signature above the line that is titled Defendant. Now, Mr. Ceja, I see you wrote your first name on this document. On the second document that I'm going to get to, I just took a peek at it, you had your full name. So you need to write your full name on this document. Now, Mr. Ceja, is this your signature?
Sure.
On page 3, or it's actually on the next document, which is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
At the top of this document, there's one box that's checked. The box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Sir.
Yeah, that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I also have before me a document that is titled Discovery Certification. You recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ceja, before you signed and initialed these documents that I just showed you, Did your attorney, Mr. Paget, go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Sir.
Mr. Seha, are you a citizen of the United States?
President.
Okay, we need to fill out a. And what country are you from?
Mexico.
Mexico. Stop pushing your witness. Mr. Seha, I have before me a document that is titled English Statement for All Foreign Nationals except those from mandatory notification countries. And at the top of this document, the last sentence in the first paragraph state, do you want us to notify your consular officers at this time? And just circle around no. And is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on this document?
Yes, sir.
Now, before you signed this document, did your attorney go over this document with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything in this document?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in this document true and correct
Yes,
to the best of your knowledge? Okay. Now, Mr. Seha, I'm going to go back to State's Exhibit number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment. That's the first document that I showed you on the tablet. And at the bottom of this document, there's a paragraph that's titled Citizenship. I'm going to read this to you. And it states as follows. If you are not a U.S. citizen, a plea of guilty or nolo contendere may result in your deportation, exclusion from admission to the country, or denial of naturalization under federal law. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And do you still want to go forward with your plea bargain?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Mr. Paget,
Yes, Your Honor.
pursuant to the case of Padilla versus Kentucky, did you advise your client the consequences of entering a plea of guilty or no contest by him not being a U.S. citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, Mr. Hubel,
Stay up for 6-1.
okay,
No
Yeah.
objections to stage 1.
no objections. State's Exhibit number 1 will be, let me put the cause number. And the court will also take judicial notice of the court's file. Mr. Paget, you have advised and counseled Mr. Seha. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Seha, your attorney, Mr. Paget, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective,
Yes,
and competent legal representation?
yes, sir.
Mr. Seha, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will also find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers was freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
For a plea of guilty or no contest, the state has offered 1 year deferred probation
with a $500 fine, 50 hours community service, the installation of the interlock device, and DWI standard conditions of probation.
Okay. What is the court cost in this case? I get me to get in. Well, no, the last page is coming. We might need to talk to them. Okay. Mr. Seha, the state is offering that you serve 1 year deferred adjudicated probation. During the 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a DPS fine of $100, standard fine of $500. You'll also be required to pay court costs of $392. You'll be required to pay a probation fee of $60 a month, a urinalysis fee of $15 a month, and a reimbursement fee of $15. You'll also be required to pay Jefferson County DW Education an initial evaluation fee of $125 on the day of the plea. Should a further evaluation be needed, you'll be required to pay an additional $50. Now, your total monthly installments, that is the total amount that you will be required to pay each month, is $173 a month. Will you be able to pay the $173 each month? You will also be required to perform 50 hours of community service, install an interlock device on any vehicle that you own or operate, attend and complete a DW education class, and you'll be required to have a drug and alcohol assessment, as well as adhering to the other standard terms and condition of your probation. Mr. Seha, do you understand the state's offer?
Sir.
Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mr. Seha, I will follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Seha, if you successfully complete this probationary period, this case will be dismissed. It will not appear on your record as a conviction, and you may qualify for a non-disclosure. Your attorney, who is quite competent in these matters, he'll talk to you about the non-disclosure. Now, Mr. Seha, are we ready? Please stand in front of the court coordinator, follow her directions and the bailiff directions. The case is styled the state of Texas versus Kobe John Raines, cause number 23CCCR 0630. Mr. Raines, is your full name Kobe John Raines?
Yes.
Mr. Raines, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Raines, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes,
Mr. Raines, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Raines?
Tired from here.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
How are you?
New baby.
Oh, I can understand that. Been there, done that.
She went into labor last time I was there.
Yeah, right after they walked, well, after the work.
Wow. Wow. Oh, well,
Didn't
congratulations.
handle it last time. because
Okay.
He had to rush out.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. And what did you have? Boy, girl?
Girl.
Girl? Good.
He's good at making girls.
Yeah. I'm also good at making
I am
girls.
too. That makes three of us. We seem to have that many.
Yeah.
And they're very expensive.
Yes.
You're not gonna comment on that.
Well.
Not now.
He'll find out.
That's his nice place.
Okay, now this is cause number 23CCCR 0630, State of Texas versus Kobe John Raines. Mr. Raines, you represented in the case by your attorney, Attorney James Padgett. Attorney Padgett, do you waive or record in Mr. Raines' case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Raines, I have before me a document that is titled Information Sheet. This information sheet was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. In this information sheet, it alleges that you, Kobe John Raines, on or about December 17th of 2022, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, operating a motor vehicle in a public place, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated. Mr. Raines, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to discharge Mr. Raines, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No conference.
Now, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes,
Mr. Raines, I also have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
On page 2 of this same document, there are a set of initials that are on a line next to a box that's titled Nola Contendere, which means no contest. Did you place your initials on this document? On page 3 of this same document, there is a signature above the line that is titled Defendant. Is this your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, that's titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes.
At the top of this document, there's one box that's checked. The box that is checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
I also have before me a document that is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Raines, before you signed and issued these documents that I just showed you, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything that he went over?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Raines, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes.
State?
No, for states one.
No objections to stage one.
No objection. States Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Mr. Patch, you advised in counsel, Mr. Raines, is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Raines, your attorney, Mr. Padgett, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Absolutely.
Mr. Raines, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is the agreement?
For a plea of guilty or no contest, the state has offered 180 days probated over 18 months with a $750 fine, 60 hours community service, and DWI steering conditions of probation.
What's the court cost in this case? 392. Okay. Mr. Raines, the state is offering that you serve 180 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not be required to serve any time in the Jefferson County Jail because you'll be placed on probation for a period of 18 months. During the 18-month probationary period, you'll be required to pay a DPS fine of $100, standard fine of $750. You'll be required to pay court costs of $392. You'll be required to pay probation fee of $60 a month, a urinalysis fee of $15 each month, a reimbursement fee of $15. You'll also be required to pay Jefferson County DWI education class and initial evaluation fee of $125 on the day of the plea. Should a further evaluation be needed, you'll be required to pay an additional $50. Your total monthly installments, that is the total amount that you'll be required to pay each month, is $153 a month. Will you be able to pay the $153 each month? You'll also be required to perform 60 hours of community service. You'll be required to attend and complete a DWI education class. You'll be required to have an alcohol assessment, and you'll be required to adhere to the other standard terms of conditions DWI probation. Mr. Raines, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes.
Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes.
And do you accept the state's offer? And Mr. Raines, I will follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Raines, you can stand in front of our court coordinator and follow her directions. Once you finish following her directions, you'll be free to leave, and you have a blessed day.
You too.
Oh, we need to get,
Whenever you're
Okay, take care of that baby of yours.
Yes, sir.
He's been working all night, so he's
Okay.
trying to hold on. His wife makes really good money, he needs her to go back to. At least try.
Yeah.
Okay,
Someone's texting.
Okay, right, all right. Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
somebody's texting back.
He can read lips. But I'm not sure how that's gonna work here, but we can try that.
That's the camera right there. Maybe you might have to stand and face the camera. Mr. Orega, take your mic off of mute. He just did that. So he read my lips.
That's encouraging.
Okay. Mr. Orega, we have Miss Cynthia Renteria. She's facing the camera.
El juez le está explicando que yo voy a traducirle su caso esta mañana. ¿Me puede escuchar?
He said, okay.
We can hear him.
No, we can't hear him. Is his mic? Yeah, his,
You don't.
is the volume?
I don't read it. No, I don't.
Oh,
I never.
No, I can't.
Even when.
okay, it's the volume is up. But anyway, now, Mr. Paget, you represent Mr. Orega, who is appearing via Zoom. What is your announcement in Mr. Orega's case?
It's going to be a plea and I need him here in person on the next setting. And I'm texting his family member. She's just not present there with him.
Okay, and
Does he have his phone?
give us a,
Well, actually, he has his phone with him.
yes, give us a plea date, and you can text him and let him know the date of his plea, and he needs to be here in person. Okay, this case will be reset to April 22nd, 2024. Your attorney will be contacting you. He's shaking his head.
Su abogado lo va a contactar a usted para su próxima fecha.
He said, okay.
He's got it and he says, okay.
Okay, so your case is reset.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Renteria.
And I'll file the motion on the sign language interpreter.
Okay, and,
He's verified that he will be here in person.
okay, he's free to go.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Sorry for the delay.
Okay.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you very much for your help and your patience. Okay.
Bye, Travis.
Thank you. Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is back in session. Court is in session and cause number 23 CCCR 1423, case is styled the state of Texas versus Steve Lacayo Dublin. Steve Lacayo Dublin was scheduled to be in court this morning at 9 a.m. for the court's announcement docket. At or about 9 a.m., the court's bailiff called the name of Steve Dublin at the courthouse door. Steve Dublin did not answer. Steve Dublin has not appeared in court since the court has been in session. The time now is 11:25 a.m. on today's date. Is that the, wait up? Did they turn the clock back or turn it up? Is that 12?
I have 11:25 on my phone.
Oh, yeah, okay, they must have fixed it, okay. So it's 11:25 on today's date of March 11th of 2024. Mr. Bailiff, would you please call the name of Steve Dublin at the courthouse door?
Steve Dublin. Steve Dublin. Steve Dublin. No answer, Your Honor.
Steve Dublin's name was just called again at the courthouse door. Steve Dublin did not answer. A reasonable time has passed to give Mr. Dublin an opportunity to appear in court. State, do you have a motion? That motion will be granted. Steve Dublin bond will be forfeited and a warrant shall be issued for his arrest and cause number 23 CCCR 1423. Next two cases are cause numbers M332940 and cause number M332942. Both cases are styled the state of Texas versus David Fitzgerald Frank. David Frank was scheduled to be in court this morning at 9 a.m. At or about 9 a.m., the court's bailiff called the name of David Frank at the courthouse door. David Frank did not answer. David Frank has not appeared in court since the court has been in session. The time now is 11:27 a.m. on today's date. Mr. Bailiff, would you please call the name of David Frank at the courthouse door?
David Fitzgerald Frank. David Fitzgerald Frank. David Fitzgerald Frank. No answer, Your Honor.
David Fitzgerald Frank name was just called again at the courthouse door by the court's bailiff. David Fitzgerald Frank did not answer. A reasonable time has passed to give Mr. David Fitzgerald Frank an opportunity to appear in court, and he has not appeared in court. State, do you have motion in each case?
State moves for bond forfeiture in both cases, Your Honor.
Those motions will be granted. David Fitzgerald Frank's bond will be forfeited, and a warrant should be issued for his arrest in clause numbers M332940 and clause number M332942. And this will conclude the calling of the court's docket at this time. Court will be in recess. Jefferson County Court of Law number 2 is back in session. The court is in session with 2 cases. First case is cause number 2366. Cause number, let me repeat that, cause number M322623. Case is styled the state of Texas versus Gustavo Gomez Vasquez. Second case is cause number M324253. Case is also styled state of Texas versus Gustavo Gomez Vasquez. Mr. Vasquez, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vasquez, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Vasquez, do you swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Mr. Vasquez, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Vasquez? I'm doing fine, thanks for asking. Mr. Vasquez, you're represented in your cases by your attorney, Attorney Joel Vasquez, who's no relations. Mr. Joel Vasquez, how are you doing?
Good, Your Honor. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Joel Vasquez. Do you waive a record in Mr. Gustavo Vasquez cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, I have before me a document that is titled Motion to Revoke Probation and cause number M322623. And in this motion, it alleges that you, Gustavo Gomez Vasquez, was tried on July 16 of 2021 in this court for the offense of Class B theft. And the court found the evidence to find you guilty. You were found guilty, and the punishment was assessed at 90 days confinement in Jefferson County Jail with no fine. The confinement was probated for a period of 1 year. This motion further alleges that you violated your probation. There are 4 allegations. State, are you abandoning allegations 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, state is abandoning allegations 2, 3, and 4. What that means that they will only be proceeding on allegation number 1. And allegation number 1 states that you, Gustavo Gomez Vasquez, failed to report to Jefferson County Probation Office as ordered by the court for the months of April, May, and June of 2022. Mr. Vasquez, do you understand this violation? Is it true or not true?
It's true.
True. Are you pleading true to allegation number 1 freely and voluntarily? And are you pleading true because it is true? Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, I also have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. You recognize this document? There's one box that's checked. That box that's checked is MTRP, which means motion to revoke probation. On page 2 of the same document, there are a set of initials, GV, on a line next to a box that's checked MTRP, which means motion to revoke probation, true to allegation number 1. Did you place your initials on this document?
Sure.
On page 3 of this same document, there is a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Is this your signature? On the next document that's titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant? At the top of this document, there are 2 boxes checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Vasquez, I also have a document that is titled English Statement Number 1 for all foreign nationals except those from mandatory notification countries. And the last sentence in this paragraph states, do you want us to notify your consular officers at this time? And it is circled no. Did you place your signature on this document? And then you circled no, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Vasquez, Gustavo Vasquez, I'm going back to State's Exhibit number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment. At the bottom of this document, there's a paragraph that is titled Citizenship, and it reads as follows. If you are not a U.S. citizen, a plea of guilty or nolo contendere, which is no contest, may result in your deportation, exclusion from admission to the country, or denial of naturalization under federal law. Do you understand this statement? Now, do you still want to go forward with your plea bargain? And Mr. Vasquez, pursuant to the case of Padilla versus Kentucky, did you advise Mr. Gustavo Vasquez of the consequences of pleading guilty or no contest by him not being a United States citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, before you signed and initialed all of these documents, did you read the document? Well, did your attorney go over these documents with you? And did you read everything your attorney went over? And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge? And Mr. Vasquez, as we stated earlier, you are not a U.S. citizen. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment. Would you like to offer State's 1?
Yes, sir.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. And Mr. Vasquez, you've advised and counseled Mr. Gustavo Vasquez. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, your attorney, Mr. Joel Vasquez, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation? Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, I will accept your plea of true to allegation number 1. I will also find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers was freely and voluntarily given. And I'll also find that there is sufficient evidence to revoke your probation. And your probation is hereby revoked. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
That agreement, purported through the allegation 1, the state has offered 16 days time served on this case, to run concurrent with the next case.
Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, the state is offering that you serve 16 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any more time in the Jefferson County Jail on this case because you've already served 16 days in Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you'll be given credit for the time that you have already served. The court costs in this case will be taxed and retired. That simply means that you will not be required to pay the court costs in this case because the time that you spent in jail has already paid off the court costs. Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, do you understand the state's offer? Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just? And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Now, Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, we will now proceed to your next case. The next case is cause number M324253. In this case, I have a first amended motion to revoke your probation. And in this first amended motion, Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, it alleges that you, Gustavo Gomez Vasquez, on July 16th of 2021, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of cruelty to an animal. And actually it says on July 26th, you was convicted for cruelty to an animal, and you were found guilty, and your punishment was assessed at 270 days of confinement in the Jefferson County Jail and a fine of $2,000. And your confinement was probated for a period of 2 years. During this 2-year probationary period, This motion alleged that you violated your probation. There are 4 allegations. State, are you abandoning allegations 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, Your Honor, as well as allegation 5.
No, and there's not an allegation 5 in
I thought that
the first amended?
Oh, there isn't? Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, so the state does abandon 2, 3, 4.
Okay. And let me make sure, yeah. And Mr. Gustavo Gomez Vasquez, the state alleged in allegation number 1 that you, Gustavo Gomez Vasquez, failed to report to the Jefferson County Probation Office as ordered by the court for the months of April, May, and June of 2022. And in violation of condition 4 of your probation order, Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, is that true or not true?
True.
Are you pleading true to allegation number 1 freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading true because it is true?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, I also have before me a document that is titled misdemeanor plea admonishments, also labeled as State's Exhibit number 1. One box that's checked on page 1 is MTRP, which means motion to revoke probation. Do you recognize this document? On page 2 of the same document, there's a signature. Oh, that must be, okay. There's a set of initials on the line next to the box that's checked. Motion to revoke probation, true to allegation number 1. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 3 of the same document, there's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is this your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, that's titled trial court certification of the defendant's right of appeal. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
And at the top of this document, there are 2 boxes checked. The box says, first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case. You have no right of appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes.
Second box that's checked states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes.
And also, again, have this document that is titled English Statement for All Foreign Nationals except those from mandatory notification countries. And did you, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
And you circled no, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. We need to put the cause numbers on that. Now, Mr. Hubel, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1.
Stay up for stage 1.
Any objections? No objections. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. And again, Mr. Joel Vasquez, you advising counsel, Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, is any evidence that he's currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, your attorney, Mr. Joel Vasquez, is advising counsel. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided fully effective and competent legal representation?
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, I will accept your plea of true to allegation number 1. I will find that you're mentally competent to stand trial. I'll also find that your plea and waivers are freely and voluntarily given. I'll also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And Mr. Joel Vasquez, pursuant to the case of Padilla versus Kentucky, you also advised your client to the consequences of him not being a citizen, him pleading guilty and no contest in this case. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
All right. State, do we have Mr. Gustavo Vasquez? I will find that the evidence is sufficient to find you guilty. I will accept your plea of true to allegation number 1. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers are freely and voluntarily given. And I will find that the evidence is sufficient to revoke your probation, and your probation is hereby revoked. State, do we have a plea bargaining agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
For a plea true and violation one, the state is offered 14 days time served.
Okay, and tax and retired court costs?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, state is offering that you serve 14 days in Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any more time in Jefferson County Jail on this case because you've already served 14 days in Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you will get credit for the time that you already served. The court costs in this case will be taxed and retired, which means you will not be required to pay the court costs because the time you spent in jail has already paid it off. And this case will also run concurrent with cause number M322-263. Mr. Gustavo Vasquez, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
You think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Gustavo Vasquez, follow the plea bargaining agreement that you have entered into with the state. Please stand in front of just please have a seat. And when the court coordinator is ready for you, she'll call you up to a window and you have a blessed day. You can have a seat out there. And Mr. Vasquez, you're free to go. You have a blessed day. Mr. Hubel and Ms. Simmons, you're both of you all are free to go. And y'all have a blessed day. All right, this will conclude the calling of the court's announcement docket, the pretrial conference docket, and the trial docket on today's date of March 11 of 2024 in County Court at Law number 2 of Jefferson County, Texas. Judge Terrence L. Holmes presiding. Everyone, please have